It ends up being a sweep for the Royals in Tampa Bay, and they've now won 9 of 10. We'll give you our reaction next on Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned into another edition of Locked On Royals in the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. That's at JOHNYJ_15. And you can also find us on wherever you get your podcasts. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit that follow button and subscribe. For you first-time listeners out there, here's how the format works. We bring you episodes Monday through Friday, 30-minute episodes at that, as well as a 60-second recap that we post on our YouTube channel after the game, sometimes right after it, sometimes a little bit later on, but you'll get our thoughts there, and you will definitely be getting our thoughts in our episodes, again, Monday through Friday. And then on Friday, we have our mailbag segment, where any questions sent in to us via YouTube or via Twitter, we'll be sure to get to it in those 30 minutes. So with that coming up tomorrow, you can always leave your question right below on this YouTube video. Now, today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off on your first year. So now it's 9 of 10 that the Royals have rattled off following their sweep of Tampa Bay at George M. Steinbrenner Field. And how can you not be feeling great about the state of this ball club, pitching the way they've been pitching? You get the offense breaking out a little bit today, getting 8 runs on 15 hits. You're seeing Vinny Pasquantino put together some good at-bats. Michael Garcia appears to be a new version of himself, still hitting the ball incredibly hard, but a more patient hitter and overall just a better player. You've seen Salvador Perez really turn things on, and even though he left today's game with hip soreness, didn't appear to be too serious in the postgame. But you combine this all together, and you've got a 17-15 ball club that may not even be playing their best baseball yet. Now, when you win 9 of 10 and you look at the rest of the season, there might not be many stretches where you go 9-1 over 10 games. So it's always about taking advantage of it. But from where the Royals were at a few weeks ago, to have 9-1 happen at the time it did, that's incredibly important. To face the Rockies when they did, to take on a good Houston and Tampa Bay team when they did, to get that confidence back up of we can hang with these good teams. We can beat these good teams even when our offense is not firing on all cylinders. Now, today we saw the perfect combination of what it looks like when your starter's on and when your offense is on. The Royals dominated that game. And after they took the lead 3-1 on the 2-run home run by Bobby Witt Jr., they never looked back. They were just able to add runs and stack runs each and every inning. And they were facing a damn good starter today in Shane Baz, who had given up 8 total runs in his previous 5 innings. And the Royals tag him for 7 today. You don't try to explain it. That's just baseball. Sometimes the guys that were just called up from AAA that they've never seen before, they are more problematic for this Royals lineup than a proven commodity that throws incredibly hard like Shane Baz. You can't really explain it. But now they're going to be heading off to Baltimore, carrying this momentum and having this confidence, and who knows what they might look like by the end of next week. Because after Baltimore, they're going to see the Chicago White Sox at home. And if there was any time to build a little bit of a cushion, now would be that time. I mean, Baltimore, they're coming off of taking the series over the New York Yankees, one of the top teams in the American League, of course. But the Royals are red hot. And the Royals are the hottest team in baseball when you're just looking at the previous 10 games. And this perfect combination today of the offense playing well, Seth Lugo giving you a quality start, and the bullpen doing its job, even though it was Daniel Lynch, Angel Serpa, and Chris Stratton. Like, what more could you ask for? And today would have been the game where I say, if you're going to lose the series or you're going to not pull off the sweep, this would be the game, of course. Now, you would have to win the first 2 games to even have a chance at the sweep, which they did. more so saying if there was one game to lose in this series, this would have been the one. Even though you had Seth Lugo on the bump, you had the Rays' hottest starter throwing on Thursday afternoon. And I envisioned a low-scoring pitcher's duel, but the Rays getting the better of the Royals because the Royals had been fortunate enough to take the first two games in the series. They dominate him, though. And that form of Royals baseball is doable. We know that they are capable of doing this. Having multiple guys at the top of the order get on base 2 or 3 times. I mean, Jonathan India, who we brought up in our 60-second recap, he has a hit today. He walks twice, and he's been on base in all of the last 7 games. He's walking more. His on base, as I mentioned in the recap, is well north of 440 in his last 7 games. That's the leadoff hitter you traded for. Bobby Witt Jr. drives in 3 today. That's been a theme of the first 32 games of the season. Vinny Pasquantino, he doubles, and he also drives in 2 runs to bust the game open. Salvador Perez rips a double off the wall in center field. Michael Massey has a sac fly to open the scoring for the Royals and also had a hit later on in the game. Drew Waters has multiple hits. Mark Canha gets on base multiple times. Freddie Fermin, had a leadoff double in one of the run-scoring innings for the Royals. Everybody in that lineup contributed today. So it's possible, and we know that some of these guys can break out of the slumps. In the meantime, you're relying on some of these guys to do the heavy lifting. Bobby Witt Jr. is doing the heavy lifting. Maikel Garcia is. Drew Waters for the bottom of the lineup is doing some of that heavy lifting. And this can be the ceiling of this team. Not the 9 of 10, but more so how they won today's game. If your starter doesn't bring his A game and hold this Royals lineup down to 2 or 3 runs or maybe less than that, and this offense gives the Royals 5 runs, 4 runs, well, you know what the Royals starters are going to give. A quality start. They'll even have a rookie come up and no-hit you for 6 1/3. Like, that's the type of pitching Kansas City is rolling with. And it's what brought Tampa Bay a lot of success for years and still very well could this season. They're just in a hitter-friendly ballpark. But winning games with your rotation and your bullpen, it's part of what the Royals did in 14 and 15. Give that pitching staff enough, give that bullpen enough, and you're not going to have to sweat at all in the final 3 innings. Today, you're up 7-1, you're up 8-2. You're not worried too much. Whereas last year, there might be a guy that coughs up 3 runs and now it's a save situation. Like, everybody was in sync today. And it was one of the few times, think about it, in the first 30-plus games where the other team jumps out early and you didn't have this sense of, well, that might be all they need today. I mean, that previous road trip, that was constantly running through everybody's mind. Well, how are they going to make up 2 runs? How are they going to make up 3 runs? And today, to see that type of output, it gives you the confidence rolling into this weekend. And man, if you take the series from Baltimore, which they are favored to do based on the pitching matchups and based on the way the Orioles staff has been throwing, like, you take 2 of 3 and you're 19 and 16, now you're coming back home to face the worst team in the American League. And as I said earlier, baseball is still going to be baseball. It's unpredictable. Bad teams are going to beat good teams, and good teams are going to beat up on even better teams. When you play 162, it's so unpredictable. To have that shot, though, to start building some separation in the way they did last May, that's important. Because when they were 8-14, we did not think that they would have this type of opportunity, being 2 games over 500 with some bad teams looming. And I keep going back to the tweet I put out there last week, at the beginning of last week, which was the Royals have a lot of easy opponents over the next 25 games. And 10 games through that stretch, they're 9-1. And they're going to have the White Sox still on deck. I believe they'll see Chicago again. And then that streak's going to end when they take on Boston again, and they take on San Francisco, Houston at Minute Maid Park. Like, they're tough opponents, but these last two series, they've shown Royals fans, and maybe they've shown themselves, that this is who we are. We are good enough to go and sweep a red-hot baseball team. I mean, the Astros came in playing good ball, so did Tampa Bay, and the Royals went 5-1 in those games. Now they'll head off to take on the Orioles, who you could say, in their last series, they played good baseball. If you take out one game, which was game 2, and they gave up 15 runs to the Yankees. But they held that New York lineup down in game 1 and game 3, took the series. They got to be feeling pretty good after the off day today and welcoming the Royals. But there is no hotter team in baseball right now than your boys in blue. Okay, let's take our first break of the show. When we come back, I want to bring up Jonathan India and how this is the version we should expect from him at the top of the order. That's coming up next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can catch us on wherever you listen to your podcast. Before we go any further, I want to tell you about Amazon Fire TV Stick. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 2025 to Call of Duty, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. So head to Amazon.com/FireTV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. So get started with your Amazon Fire TV Stick today. One of the main reasons we've seen this offense put together better at bats, have this contagious feel to it, in my opinion, and it's one man's opinion, is for what's been going on at the top of the order, which is Jonathan India either seeing a lot of pitches or getting on base. And when I talked to Jonathan in Surprise for spring training, he brought up that his job is to work the count and set the table for the guy behind him, or to start off an inning, whether it be in the top of the first or it be in the 5th or the 9th inning. His job is to set the table. His job is not to hit 20 home runs. His job is not to lead the league in triples, as great as that would be. His job is just simply to get on base. And we are starting to see that from the leadoff spot. And he's still popping up a little bit too much. His batting average is not going to jump off the page. But overall, you are seeing the Jonathan India that Kansas City traded for back in November. So it's been 106 at-bats for him. Don't know how much you can take away from 106 at-bats, mainly because one good week can make your numbers look a hell of a lot better. But over the last 7, you've gotten this from Jonathan India. A 292 average, a 438 OBP, and a 333 slug. He has walked 7 times in those 7 games, and he has struck out 7 times. He has only 1 RBI, but we're talking about the leadoff hitter. And that is all that matters. Are you getting on base? Are you setting the table for Bobby Witt Jr.? Today, he was able to do that. He was on base 3 times. And if he's only a singles hitter, like that slug never gets above 400, I can live with it if that on base is 350 or 360. And we have still yet to see the red-hot version of Jonathan India, but this has been a relief a little bit. This has allowed a lot of Royals fans, and I would imagine the front office, to take a deep breath in and exhale. I want to say that I brought that up yesterday as well. But to know that, hey, this is the Jonathan India that we thought we were getting. And he's had to juggle with playing left field and playing third base. And overall, through 29 games, he's hitting .217. But he's getting on base at 338, or 333, excuse me. Last year, it was 357. He slugged less than 400. The year before that, it was 338. He slugged less than 410. And the year before that, it was 327. And the rookie year, he had a 376 OBP. This is probably the range you should expect. He's not going to get a lot of extra bases, but he's going to have a high walk rate, and he's going to see a lot of pitches. And that's why the Royals only had to give up Brady Singer, their number 4 starter, who has been good as well for Cincinnati. But what the Royals so desperately needed was somebody to do what Jonathan India is doing now, or at least in these last 7 games. And I don't know if it's going to carry into this weekend and much more down the road. It might be a good 7 games and he reverts back to not getting on base as well as he is right now. But I would put money on he is going to be continuing to get better and better. And that 217 average is not going to look that way for long. And you've got some not very good starters coming up. And when this offense is clicking, you are going to see Jonathan India start off the game with a walk, and Bobby Witt Jr. get on base, and Vinny and Salvi drive in the runs, and Michael Garcia keep things going. Same thing goes for Massey, and then you just flip a coin with the bottom 3 spots in the order. Like when this offense is humming, that's what you're going to see. And as I brought up in the 60-second recap, as I brought up in the beginning part of this segment, this thing can go with where Jonathan India takes them. And the reason I say that is when this group was struggling, and more so in the win-loss department, we can still absolutely acknowledge that the offense is struggling. One game is not going to erase everything they've done in these previous 9 games, where the offense only put up 2 or 3 runs and you relied on a shutout, or you relied on the rotation and bullpen only giving up 1 run. Like today was a wonderful experience. Made every Royals fan feel great. But until they do it in consecutive games or 3 or 4 games in a row, we're not going to say that the offense is fixed. But what I mean by Jonathan India can make things go is when he gets on base, it makes things a hell of a lot more difficult to face Bobby Witt Jr. When the offense was scuffling a lot, you saw Jonathan India ambush the first pitch. There's 1 out. And the same way we saw Michael Garcia and Michael Massey do it when they were slumping last year. And now you can pitch around Bobby Witt Jr. And when the leadoff guy's not hitting and the 3-hole hitter's not hitting, you don't need to give him a strike. And Bobby Witt Jr.'s job is not to go up there and take walks. As great as that sounds to get on base every single time, I feel that most pitchers would be all right giving him a walk. And despite his speed, he gets thrown out on the bases a lot. It's not like walking the best base stealer in the game. So now that you can see more of an emphasis to see a lot of pitches, get on base, now you can't throw 4 pitches out of the zone to Bobby Witt Jr. because then it's first and second, you're already in trouble. So that's what I mean by Jonathan India can make this lineup go. And it can put Vinny Pasquantino in a lot of good situations, in a lot of good spots to drive in runs in the way he was last year. And we saw Salvador Perez look lost at the plate. And I don't want to say look lost because he was just unlucky. He was hitting the ball incredibly hard. There were some bad at-bats mixed in, but everybody was having bad at-bats. Now you were seeing some of those hard-hit balls go off the wall or over the wall or down the line. And it took 1 really good week for him to get going. Is this the beginning for Vinny Pasquantino? Can Michael Garcia continue to OPS at 788? When you put up those numbers, this offense is going to be just fine. But as I mentioned, 1 game is not going to solve all of the issues. It can give you the swagger back. It can give you that visual representation of, oh, we can actually do this, and you can take it into the next series. However, you got to do it. It's as simple as that. We can say today was the game they turned things around at the plate. They got to do it tomorrow against Dean Kramer. And they got to do it the next day against, who is it going to be? Sugano? And then on Sunday, I believe it's Kyle Gibson. Those are 3 guys, or maybe 2 of 3 guys this offense should have a lot of success against. And at least against Sugano a second time around, they've seen him. Unlike that matchup earlier in April where he was able to stifle him for 5 or 6 innings. They had no book on him. They didn't have much of a scouting report on him. Now they do. I'm very curious to see what version of Jonathan India we get in this next series. And if this continues, getting on base 2 times a game, 3 times a game, what's the run total in all of those games? right? Are the Royals putting up 5 a game, 6 a game, or will it still be around 2 runs a game or 3 runs a game? I would probably say the first part of that, where this offense can put up 5 runs when Jonathan India is getting on base 2 or 3 times a game, and that's what they expect him to do. That is the bar you've set for your leadoff hitter, and at least in the last week, he's been damn good. Okay, we'll take our final break of the show. When we come back, let's look ahead to that series at Camden Yards. That's coming up on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at JohnnyJ_15. Want to give a shout out to the title sponsor today in Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money by using code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off on your first year. That's monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKEDONMLB, for half off on that first year. So get started today over at Monarch Money. The next team on the docket for the Royals is one they've already seen before, and the Baltimore Orioles. And going into the year, when I made my predictions, I was still very high on Baltimore. Not as high as I was going into last year. I want to say that I picked Baltimore to win the division last year. They ended up getting a wild card spot and faced Kansas City and got swept out of the playoffs. But there's too much of a young core to ignore. They just have a top of the lineup that, when going well, is very tough to put away. But the one thing that stood out to me about this year's group, in comparison to last year's group, is the rotation just doesn't scare you. You know, last year you had Corbin Burnes, a bona fide ace who was fantastic in the wild card series. And if it wasn't for Cole Reagans being better, then we're probably viewing Corbin Burnes a little bit differently in his time in Baltimore. Then you had to face Zach Eflin. Well, the 3 guys the Royals are going to see this weekend, at least 2 of them they saw at Kauffman Stadium. They will get Dean Kramer, who through the first month of the season is posting a 2-4 record with a 7.04 ERA, 30 2/3 innings pitched, 20 strikeouts, and a 1.57 whip. And I believe Dean Kramer threw in game 1 against the Royals at Kauffman Stadium, and he only went 4 1/3, gave up 3 runs in total, only 2 of those earned, but 8 hits there. Struck out only 1, didn't walk anybody. It was bad weather, and he has not been very good since. He has not gotten through 6 innings all season long. Last time out against Detroit, he went 5 2/3, but gave up 5 earned. The start before that against Washington, he gives up 11 hits, 5 earned runs, 6 runs in total, and 5 1/3. He did have a pretty good outing against Cleveland, going 5 1/3, gave up 1 run on 4 hits, but he's a very easy to get to starter. He's a hittable starter, and the Royals have already seen him, and they've seen a lot of him over the last handful of years. And the Royals are going to counter with Michael Wacha, who threw 6 shutout innings against the Astros last time out. But that's, for Baltimore, what I would say is concerning if you're an Orioles fan. The rotation is just not good enough. The bullpen, even with Felix Bautista back, it's not good enough. And I do wonder if that offense goes through some serious lulls throughout the season, if you don't see this, Orioles team have to sell off some pieces. And I go back 3 years ago, and I want to say that this was discussed as well when we were previewing the series back in Kansas City. But you had a team that had endless amounts of talent. The future was so bright. They had top 100 prospects at every single position, and they were finally willing to invest some money. And they bring in Corbin Burnes. They had won 100 games the year before that. They looked like they were going to dominate the American League for a decade. And now you have to wonder, is that window closing? I still love a lot of the players the Orioles have, but this rotation is just not good enough. And at least 2 of the 3 games against the Yankees in their previous series, they were good enough. But it's also relying on the offense to, provide a lot of the damage. They're not getting starts that the Royals are getting right now. They're not getting 6 shutout from their number 3 and 6 1/3 no-hit innings from a rookie. I mean, they're throwing a guy on Friday night who has an ERA over 7. They have a guy throwing on Sunday, and the Royals are very, very familiar with Kyle Gibson from his days in Minnesota, who has a 22.09 ERA. It's one outing. It was his first start of the season. But if you saw it, I mean, he gave up 9 earned in 3 2/3. He gave up 4 home runs in 1 inning, 11 hits in 3 2/3. And Kyle Gibson's nearing the end of his career. Now, when you look at Sugano, who gave the Royals tons of problems in that start at Kauffman Stadium, he's been one of their more reliable guys, if not their most reliable starter. Prior to that start against the Yankees, where he struck out 8 over 5 scoreless innings, he had a quality start against Washington. He went 7 innings, struck out only 1. And then he went 7 innings against Cleveland, gave up only 2, and struck out 3 in that game. The strikeout total is not going to be there. And what's hilarious is he had 9 strikeouts total on the season going into that start against New York. And then he struck out 8. For whatever reason, maybe the theme of this episode has been don't try to predict baseball because baseball is unpredictable. You'll have Chris Bubich throwing. And Chris Bubich looking to avenge a rough outing against the Houston Astros. That's somebody you want on the mound, though. That game will also be on Fox, by the way. So if you're looking for some other ways to watch the Royals, they'll be on the FanDuel Sports Network tomorrow night. They'll be on Fox on Saturday, and then they will be on FanDuel Sports Network and MLB Network on Sunday with the first pitch of 12:35. Still, I mean, these are favorable matchups for the Royals. And if you would have asked me before these 10 games, what series are you looking to get the offense going? The answers would have been easy. I would have said Colorado, based off the way Colorado looks, based off the way the rotation is built, their bullpen is built, and I would say the Chicago White Sox. I never in my wildest dreams at the beginning of the year, to go back even further, would have said, yeah, this should be a series in which the Royals do play really well offensively, and I expect them to take the series. Expecting's a dangerous thing to do when you're trying to write down W's and L's on the schedule. The way they've looked, though, and the way Baltimore's played, this feels like the series to carry that momentum that the offense maybe started today. I mean, Dean Kramer tomorrow, the fact that he's not pitched well and the Royals have seen him, and it used to be a hitter's ballpark, not so much anymore with the deepened fences. But this is a start in which the Royals should win. You've got Michael Wacha pitching well. Wacha pitched there last year as well, very early on in the season. Not that that means much. I'm simply just pointing it out. But Dean Kramer's not one of these 4A guys that the Royals have nothing on. They've got stuff on him. They saw him a few weeks ago. Same thing goes with Sugano. And that would be the game I would maybe expect the Royals to lose because Sugano's been very good. And he's been very good over his last 3 to 4 starts. On Sunday, you got Michael Lorenzen, who's pitching well, and Kyle Gibson, who's not. And Kyle Gibson, somebody, even though he's only made 1 start this year, the Royals have seen a lot of him. And in fact, to bring up some of the numbers on Kyle Gibson, they've got multiple guys with more than 10 at-bats. Now, not all of them are great numbers. Jonathan India is OPSing 1.564 against Kyle Gibson at 10 at-bats. Salvador Perez has 50 at-bats against Kyle Gibson in his career, only hitting 160, though. Michael Garcia is hitting 600 off of Kyle Gibson. Kevin Biggio is only hitting 182 and 11 at-bats. Mark Canha is only hitting 105 and 19 at-bats. And maybe you buy into those numbers. Maybe you read into that. Bobby Witt Jr., by the way, hitting 429 off Kyle Gibson in his career. That's a lot of experience against one pitcher. Now, Salvador Perez, the most, and goes back to his prime when he was in Minnesota. But that's what they have on Sunday, a guy they're familiar with. Sugano, 1 start against him. Dean Kramer, they have seen more of him than just 1 outing earlier in April. Now, the Orioles have a lot of experience off of Michael Wacha, and some numbers very good for them. But with the Royals, Salvador Perez has 11 at-bats against them. 7 for Vinny Pasquantino, 6 for Renfroe, 11 for Bobby Witt Jr., 8 for Michael Garcia, 7 for Jonathan India. That gives me the confidence of those guys aren't throwing well, and the Royals have seen a lot of these pitchers going for Baltimore this weekend at Camden Yards. Okay, that'll do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen today. For your second, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale, and you can find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Tomorrow, it'll be a morning/early afternoon episode of Mailbag Friday, but until then, you take it easy, Kansas City.